Hey guys, it's Gary back with another episode of Agency. I think this is about our fourth or fifth one now, and I probably got a couple more. Eventually, I think we'll probably compile these all into one podcast and talk about these issues. But so far in this series, talking about agency, we have talked about interfering with agency in general, what your duties are, which is well above just turning a blind eye or just simply asking a question. Are you working with another agent or have you worked with another agent? It's much more than that. The Real Estate Commission has been very clear that you have an affirmative duty not to interfere with the agency of another, and simply asking a question is not going to be sufficient. You have that duty to make sure. We've also talked about when you leave brokerages, how those clients belong to the broker and you don't get to take those clients. So and if you try to interfere or try to get those agents to leave or those clients to leave with you, that is interference of agency. Today, we're going to talk about kind of a different concept with agency that I think a lot of people misunderstand. And if you go back and look at the statute, it does not say that you will not interfere with the agency of the brokerage. It says you will not interfere with the agency of a licensee. The licensee is the individual agent. And so when you look at that statute, that does mean that you may not interfere with the agency of someone in your office. And so if I work for brokerage ABC Realty and I have signed agency with a client, you cannot, also working at ABC Realty, come and steal my client and start doing things that you're not supposed to, offering them properties, showing them properties, talking to them about anything other than about when my agency ends. Now that confuses some people because, as we've talked about this in the past, agency typically, it lies with the broker because all of your clients are essentially clients of the broker. So I have heard people try to say, well, if the client's the broker's client, then the broker can't interfere with their own agency. That's not what the law says. The law says you may not interfere with the agency of another licensee. So we're very clear on that law, that even applies internally. So if you think about that conceptually, if that is not the case, then it's the wild, wild west at every brokerage. And if you take a brokerage that, say, has 300 agents under one broker, then it's the wild west. Every single agent within that company could illegally and improperly contact your client, offering them properties that you haven't offered them, trying to get them to cancel with them and come to you. That is not at all what this statute's about. If agency isn't sacrosanct, then nothing is. Nothing. That's the whole point, is to protect the consumer. And this is where another point I think a lot of people misunderstand. The agency protection there of not interfering with agency isn't about necessarily just protecting the agent. It's about protecting the consumer. And what is it protecting the consumer from? It's protecting it from this aggressive action of other agents constantly coming out them, trying to confuse them and talk them out of the representation they've already agreed to. So imagine this is having 10, 15 agents within a brokerage contacting you every single day, and the confusion that would cause for a consumer, the conflict that causes for a consumer, the improper position that puts the consumer in. So no, you are not allowed to go interfere with the agency of a licensee in your company, even though the broker is the one that has those contracts. So that's something that I think a lot of brokers misunderstand. And I hope that everybody will understand that. I've talked to a lot of people about this that are very high up and understand these concepts, that teaches this stuff, that wrote the laws on this stuff. And that's exactly where they all come down on, is if agency is not sacrosanct even within inside the brokerage, then what's the point of it? It does not protect the consumer. And that's what the whole point of the statute is to protect the consumer from this aggressiveness of agents trying to go to clients that are represented and talk them into doing other things when they already have representation. So I hope that clears up that mess. Next week, we're going to talk about agency in relation to procuring calls, because I think a lot of people misunderstand procuring calls, thinking that, well, I got procuring calls, this agency doesn't matter. That's not all true either. So we'll talk about that. Sorry, this one's a little bit long, but we needed to hit this topic pretty strong today. And we'll get on it again next week. Y'all have a great weekend, and y'all come to Blair Cato for a closing. Don't forget, we have 8 locations. And we have a Spanish liaison. So wherever you need to close around the state, we can take care of you. All right. Y'all have a great weekend.